tensions were naturally high in Tamil majority areas. The army patrolled aggressively. Many younger Tamils started to gravitate towards the Tigers, seeing them as the only protection against the state.
After the riots of 1983, the atmosphere between the two groups was very poisonous. Elements of the Sinhalese security forces, the government security forces, then went into Tamil areas and engaged systematically for quite a long time in the massacre of unarmed Tamil non-combatants on the assumption that this would intimidate Tamils and somehow end extreme actions by Tamil groups. Well, what it really did was to inspire more extreme actions by Tamil groups. The Tamils responded to what was state terrorism from the Sinhalese side with their own terrorism from the Tigers' side, and you got terrorism feeding terrorism on both sides in this conflict, and it turned very, very nasty indeed.
Nasty for both sides. If Tamil civilians could be massacred, so could Sinhalese. 60 banned and shot dead at a farm in the north. Delhi was watching with growing alarm. Its own Tamil population was restive. It had separatist tendencies of its own. Delhi was already giving moral support to the militants. Now it decided it had to intervene more decisively.
The Indian government helped the Tamil armed movements, including the LTTE, to train and to provide arms, and they provided arms and training for the Tamil people. So the Indian intervention at that time has helped to a great extent, because we felt, the Tamil people felt, that India is behind us.
Rajiv Gandhi was now the Indian Prime Minister. His support for Tamil militants made him an unpopular figure for President Jayawardena. He tried to resist Rajiv's attempts to force him to sit down and negotiate with the Tigers.
I think we can deal with them, but we need the sympathy of the world, we need the support of India, because they have training camps in India, they have been trained in India, and they are operating from India, they move about freely in India, and I don't think they should be allowed to do that, to use violence against a friendly state.
But therefore you feel that within Sri Lanka you have no alternative but to fight the guerrillas until you defeat them militarily?
Until they give up arms, yes. Nothing else I can do.
But the danger would be that in the process of defeating them militarily, supposing you can do it, you then alienate a lot of Tamil opinion which says, well, at least these people are Tamils and we don't want to see them killed.
I don't think so. I think I'm not afraid of alienating Tamil opinion, I'm afraid of alienating public opinion in the world. Your country and other countries, including large section in India, have a wrong impression of what is happening there. They think this is an ethnic conflict. It's not an ethnic conflict. It's a conflict of some people who want to capture the whole of Sri Lanka, not a portion, the whole of Sri Lanka, and make it a Marxist state.
But the Tigers were growing in strength. By now they controlled swathes of territory in the north and east. Transformed into a highly disciplined guerrilla army and preaching the equality of the sexes, they recruited women as well as men to fight in battle. The Tigers also promoted a cult of death. All cadres wore a glass phial filled with cyanide around their necks. Death was preferable to capture. Children were also recruited. Orphans were taught to revere the Tiger leader, Velupillai Prabhakaran.
Their leader is evidently somebody who is in control and who does not allow opposition to him within the organization. Its strength is its dedication and its ability to inspire its followers to give their lives and become martyrs in their cause.
The fanaticism of the Tigers made them tough opponents for the under-trained Sri Lankan army. Casualties were heavy on both sides. In 1997, a new army offensive had the Tigers on the run, but the military blockade of Tamil areas hurt civilians as well as militants. The Indian Prime Minister felt he must do something. he organized an airdrop of medicines and food to the beleaguered citizens of Jaffna invading Sri Lankan airspace. Encouraged, the Tigers struck at Colombo. Bomb blasts led to frequent curfews. An agreement was signed between India and Sri Lanka. President Jayawardena signed reluctantly. 40,000 Indian peacekeeping troops would be brought in to separate the combatants. Sinhalese nationalists were enraged, as Rajiv Gandhi found during an official ceremony marking his departure from Colombo.
We diplomats were all lined up to watch a parade and a guard of honour. Rajiv Gandhi walked down this line and was then promptly attacked by one of the ratings in the front row and almost killed.
A clear sign of just how angry Sinhalese nationalists felt about military intervention by India, the old enemy.
The Guard was, if not a member, then certainly very much under the influence of the JVP. One of the characteristics of that brand of Sinhalese nationalism was an extreme antipathy to India.
Indian troops found it hard dealing with the Tamils. Initially they stuck to their peacekeeping mission, but the Tigers felt betrayed. Now India was occupying their lands. Within a couple of months, fighting erupted between the Tigers and the Indian army.
The Indian peacekeeping force turned to be an occupational army and demanded decommissioning from the LTTE. They wanted the LTTE to be demilitarized. We didn't want to hand over our weapons at that time, so we were compelled to resist. So our resistance exploded into a kind of an armed conflict between the LTTE and the IPKF, which lasted for nearly 2 years.
The Sri Lankan government now faced insurgency on two fronts. In the south, a new uprising by the JVP. Crushed in 1971, their leader had been imprisoned. Now he was back. Roham Wijewera, his goal, Marxist revolution and the overthrow of the ruling elite in Colombo.
They want to protect their high families and their relations. Not our poor people, those who are suffering in Sri Lanka. There are no jobs. There are no lands to cultivate. There are no paddy fields. They have to struggle to live.
The JVP had been in the shadows since its first uprising. Now it began a terror campaign, attacking the symbols of an uncaring government, assassinating security personnel, and threatening anyone who opened for business. The government closed schools and universities, fearful that the JVP were using them to recruit new members.
There are lots of killings going on. I mean, sometimes I have seen bodies lying in the streets, and a lot of people were killed by the JVP, officials of the government, police, etc. In fact, I saw one happening somewhere very close to where I was staying in Colombo. But, I mean, it was real massacre. People were just being killed. It was sort of verging on anarchy at one time.
And the story from then on is the JVP becoming more self-confident. Target specific areas of the economy, one by one, force all the workers in that sector out on strike, and then gradually hope to cripple the economy.
The JVP executed a bus driver because the driver took a bus out on a day that the JVP decided was going to be a day of curfew and nobody was going